Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kiran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. I think there's an anxiety introduced into kind of guitar players about how much they should be spending and how good they should sound, when really what they should be doing is allowing themselves to enjoy the music in the moment, regardless. Yeah. Because certainly the audience, I've never had somebody come up to you and go, you guys sounded great, but if only if you'd have a Wampler Tumnus instead of a Soul Food instead, it doesn't happen. So I've tried to come up with a rig where I've put aside my preferences for what's the most I can get for the money and just kind of gone, well,
is it good? Is it a good piece of kit?
Is this going to serve me in the moment of a gig, and am I going to be able to enjoy the music? Greetings, welcome to another episode of the Guitar Smarts podcast. Thanks very much for joining us. This week, Kiran and I are having a competition. We're challenging each other to come up with the best pub guitar rig for your first ever pub gig with a maximum budget of £800 or about $1,000 US. We're all finding it difficult to save money at the moment with the cost of everything going up, so this is an interesting one to try and see how you can get the most bang for your buck. Check out the description where you can find links to our social media sites. You can find links there also to our merchandise and buymeacoffee.com page where you can support the show. But if you really want to support the Guitar Smarts podcast, the best thing you can do is to leave us a review in Apple Podcasts or in Spotify Podcasts. Anywhere you can leave us a rating or a review really helps us to grow the show more than anything else. So please do that. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm great. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's been a good couple of weeks. I've been busy with work and stuff, but this last week's been fantastic because I had a gig on Sunday, last week, a wedding gig, and
nice.
Do you know what was really great about that gig is the sound guy that was on it was fantastic, and we did everything in ears. And he took my Helix in stereo into the PA system, right? And the mix I had in ears was just fantastic, just perfect stereo of the Helix, of the Helix sounds. It was just fantastic. I had a great sound all night. It's a thing I've been craving all this time.
Is this what you shifted over to that rig for?
Exactly. And all I had was just my Helix on the floor and my guitar in my hand.
Nice.
And that was it. It was really great setup. I didn't need the speaker behind me because we were on in-ears and everything was going through the PA. And it was just fantastic.
Just a
really
dream.
great. And it was also a decent band in that there was a keys player on the gig and two horns as well. So it was like
pressure was off a little bit.
Pressure was off, a bit. I could just kind of, just chip in with little things here and there, especially on songs like like Never Too Much by Luther Vandross. We did stuff like that, to be able to just kind of, do the nice little guitar parts and not worry about keys parts as well was awesome. So there was that. And then the other thing that happened this week was Tuesday night, my good friend and old ACM buddy, Connor McDonald, got tickets for me and Andy, from Roadrunner. Yeah. Andy Rudd, who was the first guest actually on this podcast. We went to see James Morrison in Reading play live because Connor's James Morrison's guitarist.
He is.
And his guitar playing was just absolutely just brilliant. But man, James Morrison can sing. I knew he was a good singer. Don't get me wrong. I always knew he was a good singer, but he really does. Does more live than he does in his recordings. And boy, oh boy, can that man sing. Just blown away by just the performance of his band. Absolutely superb. So,
the longevity that guy has had as well in the music industry. Yeah. And you're right, he can sing, and his voice seems to get better and better as he gets more mature with it. I think hasn't he just done, I say they because I know Connor's probably been involved in it as well, but haven't they just done like a reworking of all his like greatest hits. But so he's got like a greatest hits album, but
that's right.
They've gone back into the studio and recorded them all again.
Yes,
you know, many years later, so that the songs have kind of taken on a bit more of a new arrangement and things, and re-recorded it all with that kind of live feeling. So it's a greatest hits album, but like what a great way to do that, just to re-record them rather than just making a compilation disc of all the previous masters.
Exactly that. And Connor was saying it was a good thing to be part of, because they wanted to do it, and James wanted to do it in quite an old fashioned way, in that it was all live in the room, sung and everything played live in the room, no overdubs. They did 2 or 3 takes, and then they chose the right one for the album. I think so. It was really nice to be recording something like that, because I think Connor's done some session work for other people recently, and he said they chop what you record up and mess around with it so much that it's you can't hear what you actually really came up with. What's on the record seems to be, it's like they've resampled everything you've played. So it was nice to be part of a project where it was literally playing with people in a room like they would do live, and just recording that. So
he's such a great guitarist.
Connor's fantastic. It was really great to see Connor play in a guitar. It's in a situation where he's clearly being allowed to be himself. You know what I mean? He's not being kind of told to do things a particular way. He's been hired because I think James likes what he does with his own kind of sensibilities, if you like. It was really nice to see him play and kind of let loose and be himself on stage. I know Connor suffers terribly from like imposter syndrome, so he's always kind of like, was it okay? Does it sound okay? I'm not sure I had a great night. And I'm like, it was fantastic. Just
what a pleasure!
Yeah,
what a pleasure!
It was brilliant.
What a pleasure. We'll have to try and get Connor on the show at some point.
Yeah, we should.
He's such a lovely guy, and
absolutely,
he's got a great chat and attitude. And
a lot of good stories. He's a really, really interesting, a very interesting individual and a great guitarist. He'd be good to have on the show. But anyway, that was mine.
Hey, that's a pretty good week. that's a pretty good couple of weeks, mate. Nice.
What about yourself?
I've been busy. Few guitar setups and things, which is good. And then had a gig last weekend with the Damien Lodrick band. So Damien Lodrick, friend of the show, has been on a few times.
Brilliant.
So depping for him, which was just great, man. I mean, I used to gig with Damien a lot in my younger years. But now to get invited back and play with him with his current band, and the musicians that he has with him are just superb. They're just great pro musicians, right? So, my night was spent standing next to the bass player Dave, who's just a phenomenal musician anyway, guitarist, a bass player, but just with big grins on our faces, just entertaining each other all the time. Because Damien's so good at what he does, right? He can just stand at the front, lead the band. I mean, he even said, look, don't stress. We've got keys on the gig. The drummer's just so solid, and Dave on the bass, they're just so solid. He's just like, just follow along with them. And he said, and any bits that you're not kind of haven't had the time to learn, don't worry, I've got them, because he has. It's his set. So, again, very different to my other band where I'm the only harmony instrument, right? It's where we've discussed this before. Those gigs I love, and it's great because I get to play a lot of guitar, but I have to play a lot of guitar because there's nothing else, right? So it's like super concentration all the time. So this was an opportunity to learn a lot of those songs in a different key and experiment with them, but moreover, just sit in with a band where you can have that kind of fun and just entertain yourself and do little things that make each other smile, just because the band is so tight and solid anyway. So that was great fun.
Awesome.
And then I've been guitar wise. I've got a rehearsal on Sunday for the other band to learn some new songs, which is good. But I've got a feeling I'm going to have to relearn their entire 2-hour set list again, because it's been a month. It's been a month since that gig, and in the meantime, I've learned all of Damien's set in a different key. So it's like, I've got the rehearsal on Sunday, but I've just got a feeling I've forgotten that entire set list. So I'm going to have to relearn that again, as well as the new numbers. So I'll get round to that between now and 48 hours that I've got before rehearsal.
Little and often.
Yeah, exactly.
I say that actually. Little and often, like you're learning things, a little bit every day. Actually, that doesn't always work for me. Sometimes I do have to kind of cram it all in because I want the very recent effort of learning something to be close to me in time to the gig kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes like you don't have the choice but to cram.
Same for Damien's gig, right? He and I kind of arranged some little get-togethers just to go through guitar parts and stuff. And we had like a good 2 weeks before the gig. So it was just like, I've got 2 weeks. I'll do a little bit every day. I'll break down the set list. It's whatever it is, 40 odd songs, 35 songs, whatever. I'll break them down and I'll do a couple of songs a day and that'll be it. My brain doesn't work like that anymore, right? Because it's all short-term memory. I'm not going to learn these songs and they're going to stick in my brain for the next 5 years. No. So literally I did 2 hours, like I crammed for 2 hours. Yeah. Like before I got together with Damien, and then I just did like another half an hour refresh before the gig. And that's it. That's how I need to do it now, is just a solid block of time. So that's what I'll do on Saturday. I'll just buy somehow some time so my wife can watch the kids, and I'll just steal 2 hours to myself, refresh the set list, then it's done, and then Sunday it'll be fine. And that's it. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I've gigged them already. It's fine. And the new ones, they're not too bad. They're quite straightforward. Straightforward. So it's been a good couple of weeks for me as well, buddy. But also I've been preparing for today's challenge.
Well, today, because we've got another. Well, we're thinking like in a. in kind of line with us all being budgetarily challenged these days with the cost of energy and then general cost of living going up. We thought let's do another budget challenge, right? And I've got to say, actually, this one has got me back in the mood for going guitar shopping.
I sensed that. I got some texts from you yesterday going, I want to go and try these guitars. We need to go guitar shopping. I'm like, yeah. I've heard this before. I've been like in the last couple of months, I've been to like 3 guitar shops, and every time I come back going, come on, Matt, let's go guitar shopping. And you're like, no, I hate spending money on guitars. I hate guitar shops, blah, blah, blah. And then yesterday, it was like a different Matt Oliver. There was like this string of text messages going, let's go. We need to go. I'm in the mood for buying. I think you actually said, I'm in the mood for buying something.
I'm in the mood for spending money. I think it's time. I think it's time. I need to, Yeah,
I nearly dropped everything and just drove around. We better capitalise on this. Let's go now, quickly. Let's go.
Just to check I was feeling okay. Are you all right? Yeah. Who is this? You're like texting back. Who's this? And what have you done with Matt?
No, I think it's good, mate. And look, to be fair, you've always said that as much of a torturous experience is going into a guitar shop, right? Which it is, right? Because there's all these pretty toys that we want, and budgets and money isn't endless. So invariably, you kind of always lust for something. But you have said this year, at some point, you are going to make a purchase because it's you got a big birthday coming up, and you've always said you wanted to get something this year. So
exactly,
exactly. Time is ticking.
I mean, it's time is ticking. I think I'm ready. Well, also, it's kind of like I want to make the right decision before prices start going up a bit too much. I want to make a sensible decision, but I also, I want to get another guitar in my hands. I actually just also want to get out to some guitar stores and get supporting some guitar stores and getting around and looking at some new instruments and stuff, because I haven't done that for so long. You've got to get out there and support your local music stores. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, right? So this week, we have given ourselves a challenge of creating a full rig. Yeah. So that's an entire rig, amp, guitar, pedal board, everything that you need to support that for your first pub gig, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the scenario here is that you're maybe not necessarily a new guitarist, but you're certainly new to gigging, right? And maybe you've never had the equipment at home. You've had practice amps, maybe some cheaper instruments or something that you don't want to gig. And you want to go out there and say, I want to buy myself a rig, a new guitar, new amp, pedals, everything I need. so that I can go out and do my first pub gig. And the budget we've set ourselves is £800, right? So what's that? About $1,000, something like that?
Just over $1,000. I just did a quick conversion now. Cool. As of today, it's about $1,040. So let's say $1,000 for argument's sake. And I think, this is a healthy price point for somebody, as you say, to get into doing gigs, be it a beginner, be it an intermediate player, be it somebody that just wants to know, okay, what kind of rig can I get for that money? Because you can potentially go cheaper if you start looking at the used market and things. And I don't know if you've gone secondhand for some of this stuff. I've gone all brand new, and you can clearly go more expensive. But the philosophy that I've taken with this is that enough money to put together a really credible quality rig that will stand the test of time and could be, you'd be quite happy with for many, many years, and wouldn't necessarily need to change it unless you either started doing much, much bigger gigs, or you just fancied buying some extra kit for the sake of it. Is £800, $1,000 enough to get a really decent rig that you don't feel is just it's just lacking, it's just wanting for more? It's my entry rig, but it's not really up to the job. Can you get a rig for that much money that is up to the job and you'd be very happy with?
Sorry to interrupt this really interesting part of the conversation, but if you've made it this far, maybe you should subscribe. Go and do that now, and then come right back. Yeah, see, that's the question right there, isn't it? That is would you be, I think £800, yes, absolutely. I think, I think I've certainly proven it with my selection that you can go and get a gig worthy rig for £800 or $1,000, but you are forced to make some decisions. So you might call them compromises in certain areas. It depends how you look at it. But like the rig that I've got, for example, I think I've made some choices that you could say are restrictive. I've made some compromises.
You've made some compromises.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But I'm happy with that compromise, given how much I know that I'm getting for the money I'm spending. Right. So, So, shall we get on with it? Shall we?
Let's get on with it. I'm gonna just say one more thing before we get into it, which is we haven't compared, so we might have some duplication going on here.
That's true.
I think I've come up with a rig that I don't think I've made too many compromises on for the brief, which is a good standard pub gig rig. I don't think I've made too many compromises. And I also think I might completely surprise you with my choices. I don't think, based on previous challenges we've done and the routes that I've taken, I've gone a different way.
So I've kind of, I don't know if I'll surprise you or not, to be honest. But I took a certain approach to this. Which is I thought, if this is somebody's first pub gig, what's going to be important to them? And I was kind of thinking back in time to my first pub gigs. And you know what? Back then, the rig really wasn't on my mind. I just wanted to make sure I had enough stuff to be able to gig. I think the first pub gig I ever did, I was guitar straight into the amp. And I was using my volume control. And I think even in some cases, if I was switching channel, I was even pressing the button on the amp, not even having a foot switch.
Oh, really? Okay, wow.
Because I was kind of like, I was actually quite naive to what kind of stuff you could get anyway. I knew you could get pedals and stuff, but I wasn't really interested in them. So the next stage for me was just to have a simple, overdrive pedal on the floor, battery powered kind of thing. Yeah. So it was simple. So we said, I guess, guitar amp, pedal board and stuff like that. That's the kind of, we had to put the rig together. I was going to start with the pedal board side of things and kind of take you through that first. So I've gone for...
That's interesting that you've built your rig around the pedal board first.
Actually, because I wanted to get it out of the way, if I was honest. I wanted to get a simple pedal board, because we said pedal board. I thought, well, I have to choose something that is a pedal board. A part of me for a while wanted to get a cheap multi-FX, like a cheap little multi-FX that I could program some things in. And then I thought, would I do that now or back then? And I thought, I don't know if I would or I wouldn't, but I don't know if I'd be happy with the sound. And I want to feel like there's every chance that I can still be happy with the sound of things. And also with the idea of keeping things simple. Yeah. If I'm a pub guitarist and I suddenly find that I haven't got my levels right in the multi-FX, and I don't want to have to feel like I don't know what I'm doing in the heat of the moment to correct things. So I thought, well, I'd keep it simple. So I've actually gone for a little pedal board, which is a Tortec like 5 pedal board. The same one I actually used when we did our pedal board challenge.
I was going to say, because we did a budget pedal board build challenge, didn't we?
That's right.
I think it's worth saying though, if we did all of our budget challenges that we've done before, like the budget guitar and the best budget amps and the best pedal board for a certain amount, I forget what the amount was. Was it $300?
Yeah, 300.
I think we would go beyond this budget that we set for this challenge. So we can't just take the components that we've done in those previous challenges and put them together, because we'd be over budget.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So I've stripped my pedal board down. So I've gone for the pedal board in the sense of having like a physical board on the floor. But the only thing I'm putting on that is, other than the power supply and a 2-way daisy chain, all I've chosen is an Electro-Harmonix Soul Food transparent overdrive. Because it could be a really great just level boost, or it could be a really great overdrive, and it's super simple to dial in. And the other thing is just a cheap Electro-Harmonix tuner, just to tune the guitar. That's it. I've just gone for a gain stage and a tuner. One 5-inch pancake patch cable.
Oh my God, you've gone to the details.
I've gone to the and I've got and 2 6-meter instrument cables. So I got connection into the board, connection into the amp. Yeah. Actually, I don't know what the subtotal of that is. I only know what my complete total is, but it's somewhere in the region that's let's see, maybe
£100, something like that.
More than that, I'd say about 100 that's about 200 of the budget.
Really?
Yes, because
on 2 pedals, the Soul Food's what, about 50
75 quid. Things are going up, man.
Things are going up.
We're starting to see it now.
Wow, 70 quid for a Soul Food. That's
so 40 quid for the tuner, 75 quid for the Soul Food. So that's 105 there. Wow. The power supply and the connections and stuff like that are costing me about 60 quid in total there. Okay. Pedal board, 35 quid. Yeah, about 200 quid. About 200 quid just to get the pedal board and the interconnectivity to everything. But that's my board. I've kept it like super simple. I could even do it with just the Soul Food. You could buy a snap tuner. You could buy a stock tuner and a clip-on tuner and something like that. I could have saved myself more money and had more money to spend on the guitar. But
so clearly you've so you spent about 25% of your budget on a modest little pedal board, which for all intents and purposes, and I don't mean this as a slur. I think this is a really cool thing. You have got at your foot something really easy and foot switchable to give you a boost or just give you another gain stage that's very easily accessible, and you can control the volumes on right at your feet in a live situation, which I think is a really practical and very, very smart decision that you've made there. So that must mean that you're going to be relying on an amp with a couple of different channels to kind of give you your additional tone shaping. So
yes, okay, that's true, but there's a caveat with that, but we'll get around to that when we talk about the amps.
Alrighty, cool.
So what about you? What's on the floor for you?
Nothing.
Well,
not entirely true. I don't have a pedal board.
Okay.
I have a foot switch on the floor.
Right. Okay. So it's part of your amplifier. Okay.
It's part of my amplifier, but that's not where I've spent my money. So I did think, right, because you know me, I love my pedals and stuff. And I went back and I looked at our budget, pedal board build, which, we say the word budget, but please don't associate that with cheap and nasty. We both respectively built some really modestly priced but very giggable, tuneful pedal boards for not that much money. But what was on there I think, particularly the board that I built, was overkill for this application, and then didn't leave me the money that I wanted to spend where I wanted to spend it in this instance. Because I had noticed, actually, I thought I would get a lot more for the money, but prices have gone up of stuff, I've noticed, right? And I also wanted to make sure that I bought a guitar and an amp that I would genuinely feel would last me the test of time in terms of it not being too much of a compromise. So I know you and I have discussed, some of the stuff that you can get from Toman, and some of the stuff that is coming out of the Far East, which is like ludicrously cheap but reasonably good. Like some guitars, like some of the Harley Benson stuff and things that you and I have discussed in the past, which is a couple of £100 for a guitar. Like one of the Harley Bensons that I bought, was it like 180 quid or something? Like delivered, it was silly money.
Yeah.
And it is a great guitar. It's a ridiculous guitar for less than $200. But I wanted to spend a considerable amount more on a guitar and an amp, so that, I don't know, they would definitely they would have longevity in them, and I wouldn't feel that I was playing a really, really budget instrument that happened to be a good budget instrument, but it was always going to be with its limitations, right?
Because so you see them as like the foundation, the foundation of something, further down the line, they can still be part of that kind of rig, even if it, changes.
Yeah, but yes, exactly, Matt. But the reason why is to do with, I still have a little bit of a worry, and it may be unfounded. I still have a bit of a worry around like longevity of taking some of these really budget pieces of kit out week after week to a gig and them standing the test of time. Yeah. Like, it's great that you can get gear for that price, and it is really cool. But I wanted to make sure that the stuff that I was putting into this rig was of a sufficient quality that I would be assured that actually this was roadworthy to take out and wouldn't fail me. And I know, you could spend $3,000 on a custom shop guitar and it could fail you on the road. So, but do you know what I mean? It's just a little bit of where would I feel comfortable spending this budget, so that I thought, I've got a really, really good guitar there that is gonna survive. So
interesting.
So yeah, I do have something on the floor, but it's basically a foot switch, which I'll talk about later, and it's really just controlling the amp.
Interesting. So I like that approach. I've taken a different approach entirely. I like the fact that you're kind of standing up for, getting the most out of the key components here. But I did think about that, and I have made a very clear choice here to kind of worry less about, the kind of whether something should be considered maybe cheap or kind of basic or anything like that. Because, and maybe this is a point for another conversation sometime, but one of the I think the kind of the bad byproducts of this kind of day and age, where there are so many like YouTube channels or people that talk about very intricate, tone. Saying, we spoke last week about ways you can, improve your tone in various different ways. And I think about, other YouTube channels that speak very, very knowledgeably and very carefully about how to protect your tone and to really use the best of the best. But I think there's a bad byproduct of that, which is I think too many guitarists now have kind of an unnecessary anxiety about how good they really sound. You know what I mean? They'll go to a gig, they'll play through something simple, might be an Epiphone Les Paul through some kind of fairly cheap, relatively cheap amplifier or whatever, something that you would go out and expect to work really well for you. And I think too many people probably have an anxiety about, but I'm not playing through a 2-rock and it's not a Murphy Lab Les Paul, because everyone online says that's the best of the best. And I kind of want to, my choices are really sticking 2 fingers up to that kind of best of the best approach. I want to prove a point that I'm not sorry, I'm not sticking two fingers up to your approach, Kiran.
No. I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying?
Brand snobbery, and image, like, oh, I'm going out playing this brand of guitar. It should, does that make me
not just brand snobbery, but the thought that it's wrong. But the thought that you should, what am I trying to say? It's kind of that thing of it's okay to not have the best that you can get, as long as you're kind of enjoying what you do actually have. Yeah. I think there's too many people maybe worried about, like, I've gone for that Soul Food overdrive pedal. There might be people out there that are going, I see, I'd spend the extra money on a Wampler Tumnus, and get more for it. And I don't think it's right for people who then choose the Soul Food to feel anxiety about, people thinking that I should have spent more money. I think there's an anxiety introduced into kind of guitar players about how much they should be spending and how good they should sound, when really what they should be doing is allowing themselves to enjoy the music in the moment, regardless. Yeah. Because certainly the audience, I've never had somebody come up to you and go, you guys sounded great, but if only if you'd have a Wampler Tumnus instead of a Soul Food instead, it doesn't happen. Enjoy the music in the moment. So I've tried to come up with a rig where I've put aside my preferences for what's the most I can get for the money and just kind of gone, well,
is it good? Is it a good piece of kit?
Is this going to serve me in the moment of a gig, and am I going to be able to enjoy the music I play with my mates? Yeah. But shall we move on to the amp? I want you to start with this because you've chosen to not have anything on the floor other than the amp foot switch. So
you've planted something in my brain, right? And it's burrowing away. And at some point it's gonna go fully widespread and malignant in my head, and something dangerous might happen. But at the moment, so when we did the amp challenge, right, a few weeks back, I was very smug and delighted with myself. I must say that I had found a all valve, really nicely voiced combo amp for the budget, right? I think both of us were surprised that for whatever budget we set ourselves, 400, 500 quid, you could get a really nice all valve combo. And I think it was the Bagheera, wasn't it?
Yeah, you nailed it, man. That thing is just unbelievable for the money.
Yeah, with its auto biasing technology and all of that. I can't remember whether it was a 2x12 or a 1x12, but anyway, whatever. I was just like, well, that's where I'm going to go, because this is a budget rig challenge. I'm not going to be able to afford a Fender Hot Rod or whatever, so I'm just going to go straight for the Bagheera and then build the rest of the rig around that. And that was a modestly priced amp anyway, 300 odd quid or something. And then I was just like, is that the way forward? Is that future proof? And then the other thing that's been playing in the back of my mind, and this has been getting a lot of airtime, I don't know whether unnecessarily or not, but obviously because of the huge, atrocities that are happening in the Ukraine at the moment, and the role that Russia is having in the way in which the world economies and things are changing, entirely selfishly for guitarists across the world. And this is, of course, a completely trivial, almost benign point in the grand scheme of what is happening in the world. But what I hadn't fully appreciated is that valves, guitar amp valves, aren't made everywhere in the world. There was 3 factories that make guitar amp valves, that make tubes. Yeah, 3. One was in China, that burned down a couple of years ago and hasn't been rebuilt. So there's only 2 places in the world that make guitar tube amps. One of them, the biggest one, is in Russia. Oh. The other one is in Slovakia. Okay. So there is. So look, you're just like, this is news to me, Kiran. Yeah. I play a head rush and a helix, and I have no need for such trivial things. But I've just spent the best part of 200 quid buying a whole set of valves for my Fender Blues Deluxe. Because you can still get them, but the prices have gone up and through the roof. And there is a huge concern, particularly if you're based in the US, I believe, on where on earth you're going to get these valves from, because I think particularly for US customers, they were getting them out of the Russian factories, but all of the exports have stopped out there. And there is, and as I said, I don't want to be adding fuel to what might be something that's being blown out of proportion. And as I said, in the grand scheme of what's happening in the world right now, this is a very trivial, selfish point for guitarists. But there is a real debate going on as to whether actually tube and valve amps now are just really obsolete technology. I mean, they were removed from most audio equipment, decades ago in favor of transistors and things. It's only really the guitar amp world that is continuing to use these things. And it's unlikely that these factories are going to start springing up everywhere to replace the huge shortfall out of Russia, because these are specialist factories with specialist equipment, and the demand and market isn't big enough to build these factories. So it does beg the question as to whether tube amps are a viable option for the future.
Wow, that's
especially if you can't get hold of tubes.
Well, that's that. Do you know what? I never knew that. That is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't know what tubes my Helix takes, to be honest.
So I didn't go for a tube amp for that reason. Okay. I thought, actually, I can't really advocate buying a tube amp at the moment, because if something goes wrong with it, the way the situation is at the moment is that people are finding it difficult, and may find it increasingly difficult over the coming months and years to find tubes to replace it. So that leaves solid state. And then you've also been getting in my ear about, this Helix and this modelling stuff. And I'm just like, oh man, what's he done to me? So I thought, I'm not going to do a pedal board. And Line 6 have brought out the Catalyst model of amps this month. So then I went down a real rabbit hole, and I was like, well, hold on a minute. What is the Catalyst all about? And so I went really deep and started doing a huge, so clearly Line 6 and the Catalyst modeling amps are Line 6's response to the hugely popular Katana amps.
Absolutely.
So I've been digging into those two, and clearly, that is a question on a lot of people's minds: is which should I go for, the Katana or the Line 6 Catalyst? They're both very different amps, I think. From what I've been able to gather online, I've tried a Katana before. They sound great. I haven't tried the new Line 6 Catalyst yet, but from what I've been able to gather online, they're both very, very capable amps in a range of different wattages, etc., based on your needs. From what I think the Katana has probably got better flexibility and use in a gigging situation, and is designed to be more of a one-stop shop for everything, because of all of the Boss effects built into it, the software within it, the range of sounds available. I think the Line 6 is a great 2-channel amp, the Catalyst, with some really clever modelling technology in it, but I think it's designed to be used a bit more with some of the other Line 6 range of stuff, the pedals they do, the Helix stuff they do. Yeah. So for that reason only, I've gone for a Boss Katana 50 watt as the amp. And I was thinking, is the 50 watt going to be loud enough? Is it going to be giggable enough? And the amount of forums and YouTube videos that I've kind of found, and from own experience of having played one, these things are loud. They are plenty loud for a pub gig.
Fantastic.
Plenty loud. The Katana 50 watt is a loud 50 watt solid state modeling amp, with a huge amount of tonal versatility in it, because you've got all of that tone studio stuff that you can shape the amp tones that you need, plus all of those Boss stomp boxes built into it. You can save all those patches. It's all user editable on the amp or on your phone. And then I've bundled in the foot switch that you can buy as an optional extra. So the amp itself is 229 quid, really affordable.
Wow.
For a 50 watt solid state amp that is plenty loud enough for gigs. I think Rob Chapman's done a video of it on YouTube where he goes, Boss Katana 50 watt versus a drummer in a band situation. Can it do it? And he's like, man, it can do it on half the available volume. It's loud. It's plenty loud enough.
Wow.
So yeah, 229 quid. And 50 quid for the foot switch, which has two switches that can be programmed to control either effect or the channel that you want to switch between. And the foot switch is available to be used in either a latched or an unlatched setting. So you can have a momentary function with it if you just want to, do boosts and solos, or you can use one of them as a latched side, so you can switch between a clean and crunch or rock setting. So I think that'll do it. That you'll be able to have your clean clean, crunch, and lead tones pre-programmed for a gig, and you'll be able to foot switch between them using that optional foot switch. And I think you'll then be able to have some fun with modelling.
For sure.
And have an amp that's loud enough, built quality enough. It's got the Boss pedigree and all those effects built in. So I think that's where I would go. Genuinely, I think that's what I would buy.
I think that's a superb choice. I think also, going back to my point about keeping things simple, that is a simple enough modelling rig that you could easily get up and running with some 3 good sounds. One of the interesting things that we've both kind of done here in our rigs is gone for making sure that we've got a 3 sound kind of setup. Clean, crunch, lead. That really is all you need, I think, as a guitarist. I think if you can set up your rig so you've got a lead sound, a crunch sound, and a clean sound, anything more than that is not necessary. It's not that it's not necessary. It depends on what but if you're joining a pub band for the first time, those are the things that I think that's the minimum you need. You need a lead sound for your, with just a louder crunch tone, basically, and a dirty rhythm and a clean rhythm.
Exactly.
And that's basically how I've tried to set the rig up that I've gone for as well.
Yeah.
But that's a really interesting choice that you've gone for that katana with the floor pedal. And in my mind now, I'm thinking, I could have done that.
This is the beauty of the conversation, mate. I mean, I'm probably going to cover what you've gone for, but I don't know. Just based on those points that I raised about, and what you've said, you just need three decent tones. You need to be loud enough. You need to have something that's going to be decently made so that it's going to be, do the job week after week. And I think maybe tubes are going to become, in short supply. That why not start to have a backup rig or this type of rig as a modelling solution. And then for those of us like you and I that are really nerdy and want to spend some time tone shaping and tweaking, with something like that, you can, if you want, spend hours building your own custom patches and adding different effects and all of that kind of stuff into it. Yeah. So you won't get bored easily. No,
absolutely. And you've gone for an amp there, which is a fantastic home practice amplifier as well as being giggable, right? You got USB connectivity for headphones and computer, so you could sit and practice silently with that as well. So you can see why that has been the best-selling amp of the last few years globally, can't you?
You can. You definitely can. It fits that nice little niche. I mean, you go back to the days when you and I were gigging, like in our teenage years and early 20s and stuff, and if you didn't turn up with a 4x12 and a 100-watt head, then you were just kind of, you're not a gigging musician. I think that stigma's gone now.
It's nonsense.
It's nonsense, isn't it, really? And now we're saying, can I get away with a good 50-watt amp? This thing's got 65 effects built into it, 9 different channels and patches that are easy, and then you've got a foot switch where you can play around with it gigging. It's properly convenient. And if you get in a pinch, mic it up.
There you go.
It's no big deal. It's got a line out anyway. You can just take it straight into the desk. It's got cab simulation as well. So
there you go.
It's fine.
Easy peasy. So you've got just a stress-free amp rig there. That's fantastic.
Hopefully.
Well, I've gone for something actually not too dissimilar. Actually, the amp I've chosen is an amp you chose. It was one of the choices you made for like a budget amplifier. It's a modelling amp. It's not a tube amp. It's a modelling amp, nice and loud, nice and simple. Again, I wanted simplicity was on my mind. So it's not a modelling amp in the sense of like a Catalyst or the Katana with lots of different options. It's a single, or it's just got a handful of choices basically, but it's the Fender Champion 100 combo. So 2x12, 100 watts, plenty loud enough.
Oh, that is
maybe a little bit too big for your first pub gig, but vitally, again, it's a dual channel amp. So it's got a clean channel and then it's got a model channel, which is where you can choose from the different voices that are available to it. And I just thought ideal. I know those amps sound really, really good.
How much do they go for?
It's £299. So it's a really...
That's still good value, isn't it? For a 2x12, 100 watt.
For 100 watt 2x12.
Oh, that is making me question my choices now.
It's plenty loud enough.
Yeah,
and also, you know, for me, it looks like the best looking Fender amps, which is the black face.
Yeah.
You know, I love those.
Yeah.
You know, for everything that Fender did, silver face, tweed, brown face, I think the black face twin looking things are the best looking Fender amps, and it looks just like one of those. So
definitely.
So it is kind of chosen on looks as well as cost and sound and simplicity. But I think there's versatility in that amp as well. Again, for kind of down the line choices, it's going to take pedals really well. It's got it does have an effects loop, so if you did ever want to use it just as a power amp from like an effects or modeling system that you might get down the line, it's usable. Be a great spur amplifier. First pub band, viable amplifier, but usable down the line as well for other things in case,
I'm just looking at it now because I've forgotten about that one. How had I forgotten? Mate, it's 273 you can get it from PMT. Wow. Free delivery.
It's great. Yeah, because I'm just looking at it on Guitar. Just not that that's a preferred, I just went on that.
Yeah. That's a great amp, isn't it? It's a really good
amp. Fantastic. And that's my amp choice. And I've got to say,
cool.
I tried to be smart. Okay. And I was thinking, okay, well, if this is my first pub gig, I've got to buy other things as well. So I've actually used some of my budget to buy a guitar case. So there's like a £40 premium electric gig bag, a set of strings, an Ernie Ball Poly Pro guitar strap for $7.99, a little Hercules fold-up guitar stand for £20. Because I was kind of thinking, I'm going to just buy everything that I would want to take with me to that first pub gig and feel set up.
Good on you.
But
you've gone the Boy Scouts approach, like literally have everything that I need to get through a gig. That's really cool.
But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, I've taken about £100 away from my guitar budget, but I still think I've chosen a fairly cool guitar. It's not, the guitar I've chosen is not what I would choose to gig for very long, but I think it's a decent choice if you're doing your first pub gig.
Go for it.
So I've actually gone for a Squier, Squier Affinity Stratocaster dual humbucker in burgundy mist, which is basically like a metallic, like a dusky kind of pink color.
I'm going to pull it up now.
So Squier Affinity.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Squiers. The Affinity are like slightly upgraded versions of the Squiers as well.
So it's kind of like low to mid range. It's not expensive. I mean, it's only £219 this guitar.
£219. Good lord.
Squier Affinity Stratocaster, and I thought decent
dual humbucker.
Decent rock machine. 2-point trem for a bit of whammy bar action.
Like a kind of pinky purplish
That's
colour
it.
to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a metallic pinky purple.
Nice,
maybe a decent bass for upgrades in the future. I like the thing I liked about it, simplicity. Just two pickups, a volume and tone. It's not got the usual Strat volume, tone. It's just one volume, one tone control, 21 frets.
But it's a 5-way selector on it, right? So presumably a couple of those positions split the coils.
The 3-way switching. That's what it says.
3-way?
Yeah, that's what it says on Guitar.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the pic.
Loaded with a pair of Squier humbucking pickups with 3-way switching for sonic variety. Not sure about that, but that was my guitar choice because I thought it's kind of a cool looking thing. I wouldn't be embarrassed playing that guitar. And I think a dual humbucker kind of choice for pub gigs is especially if you're doing rock stuff, that's probably what I would prefer, dual humbuckers. Cool. But or either that, or I would go for like a SSH kind of setup, dual single coils and a humbucker.
I can't believe that it's a Strat that is only with a 3-way switch. That's bizarre.
Yeah, but it's a very pretty little guitar, and I think that would be fun to play, and it would be. But like I said, there's a part of me now that's wishing I wasn't so much of a Boy Scout and spent about £100 on guitar case and guitar stand and strings and a strap and stuff. Because what I would probably prefer to do is actually just assume I had those things already, and then maybe spend that extra money, just open my budget up a bit more on the guitar, and then spend the 40 or 50 quid or so on the foot switch for the amp, because it doesn't come with the foot switch. Because then I could do channel changing and turn effects on and off.
Okay.
But this is what I've gone for.
It's a really nice looking guitar. It's a really attractive looking guitar. I mean, some people would call it pink, but there's nothing wrong with playing a pink guitar.
I don't mind playing a pink guitar. Yeah, I would call that pink.
It's a cool colour with the black pickguard. And you know what? If you really want, and Squires make great platforms for upgrades, great platforms. You could easily change that out for a 5-way selector switch, drop a couple of pickups in it with coil split, and then you could get it. Would just, the only thing would be weird to me would be to play a Strat with no single coil tones. Just like humbucker tones. Where's my Strat tone on my Strat? Humbucker only, sir.
Yeah. It'd be like having a Les Paul with 3 single coils, wouldn't it? Imagine that.
Just a little bit. It would throw me, but it's a very cool looking guitar. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what did you go for, dude?
So this is where I spent my money.
I was going to say it must be.
yeah. So I definitely spent the money on the guitar, which is again a little bit counterproductive to what we've discussed before, which is, I think we've had conversations around if you had money to spend on a rig, where would you spend the most amount of money? And we kind of said, actually, intuitively, you'd think it would be the guitar, but actually spend more on the amp if you can. Right. And that's going to serve you well, right? But actually, I'm very happy with the choice that I've made on the 50-watt amp and the Katana functionality for a pub gig. So I thought, I've got some money. I've got at least 500 quid left to spend on a guitar, which is a pretty decent chunk of change to spend on a guitar, right? So you've got, well, I could have gone cheaper, and I could have gone for things that I've coveted before, like the Ibanez, the easily named SA260 FM. Do you remember that Ibanez that I was kind of coveting, which was like 200? It's now 329 quid. Right, okay. It was 299 when we did that review. But it's now 329, and that was a cool looking Ibanez. But I thought, no, we can go more than that. Things that were slightly out of my budget, I was like, that's a shame. I just needed a bit more money, but I've tried to be disciplined. So, PRS SE24, 569 quid.
That's great, actually.
Really good value. Yeah. That's what they're going for now. 569 quid for a PRS 24 SE. Fender Player Strat, 589 quid. I'm like, damn it, 89 quid above where I needed to be. Even Gibson. There's some Gibsons on offer, brand new, from some of the guitar manufacturers, guitar retailers in the UK. You can get a full fat Gibson Special Tribute Les Paul, which is literally one of those Les Pauls with all of the frivolities taken off, like the binding and all of that kind of stuff, for 599 quid now. So it's like a really stripped down.
I'm really cynical about those, though. Of course. It's like
because it's from Gibson.
It's like Gibson have gone, what's the cheapest thing we can stick our logo on and get some money for? Isn't it? Yeah? It's kind of, I don't know why Gibson bother doing that. I mean, at least PRS have a different brand name for the cheaper instruments. Gibson are kind of, well, anyway, let's not go down that road again.
Yeah, let's go. I've aggravated it. I've poked the bear, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Lab in a minute. Yeah,
you really is. You just did. Right, but I haven't. I have gone for, well, I've actually been cheeky, right? Mm-hmm. So at the moment, there is a guitar that is getting a lot of people very, very excited in the guitar press and in all the magazines, and people are going, this is a sensational guitar, right? And it is by Cort. So,
big fan.
I know you are. So, Cort, obviously, and Cortec, based out of Indonesia. Fantastic guitars coming out of that factory. Indeed, it's where the PRS John Mayer SE stuff is being made, where the PRS SE stuff is being made. It's the same makers. So, but people have often kind of sneered at Cort in the past, going, well, that's just a cheap Far Eastern brand, isn't it? And it's like, I hope we've managed to put people right on this podcast, not only because of the PRS pedigree and stuff that's coming out of there, but Cort in their own right are one of the biggest guitar manufacturers, and the stuff that they're churning out is fantastic. Yeah. Yes, you can get some very inexpensive stuff coming out of that factory. That's really good. But when you start to look at their more kind of expensive for them kind of guitars, not expensive in the grand scheme of guitars. Some of the stuff they've got is beautiful and really, really nice. So the guitar that's capturing a lot of people's attention at the moment is you might want to have a look at this unless you know it already, Matt, is the Cort G290 Fat 2.
I know this one.
So in I think it was about 2019, they released the G290 Fat.
Yeah.
But the Fat 2 has just come out. If you Google that, it is...
I know this one well. Do you know why beautiful. I know this well? Because I think...
Did you mention this one recently?
I may have mentioned the Fat, the original one. So the Fat 2 is the latest version, which I know has got some really cool new appointments. Like I think they've roasted the
They have.
But do you know what this is? I've always thought of this actually as a guitar I want to try, because I see this as kind of the poor man's Music Man Luke.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
if you like the Music Man Luke, the Steve Lukather signature, it's that guitar. Basically.
This to me just looks like a beautifully made workhorse of a guitar that I would be really comfortable and confident that I could get a variety of sounds out of. It would, and it's just put together really well. And you know, I go, this is gonna be great. So the Fat 2 is in all the guitar magazines at the moment. People are giving it like 5 out of 5 reviews. It is building on the pedigree of the Fat G290, which came out a couple of years back, and again, in its own right, was a superb guitar. The Fat 2, exactly as you said, Matt, has got the very bang-on trend and coveted roasted maple neck, which everyone's kind of like, oh, they are beautiful. It's the finishes of the Fat 2 are, it's got a few more options, like the translucent black, I think looks particularly amazing. It's a veneer, but it's a stunning looking veneer. You've got the locking tuners that you had on the Fat originally. You've got that same kind of slightly V ergo neck or something they call it, but it's got a very special, very comfortable, ergonomically styled neck profile. It's got the compound radius, which I like on a guitar, where it flattens off on the fretboard, so you get that kind of speediness of playing and bending at the upper registers. Nice 2-point trem. The pickups are, again, designed by Quartet, but they're supposed to be really great pickups. I think one of the guitar mags said the bridge pickup reminded them very much of like a Seymour Duncan Jeff Beck, like in terms of quality and sound.
Wow.
And the neck was a very bluesy kind of pickup. So they're not cheap pickups that they've put in them. Bone imitation nut, the kind of tusk nuts and all of that. So, I think this is a lot of guitar for the money, and it's being made out of Cort guitars as one of their kind of premium end things. Now, it retails for 650 quid, which is beyond my budget, way beyond my budget. But I have found it for 549 quid from Guitar. So they're doing like nearly 100 quid off of it, more than that. But that does blow my budget. Oh. That comes in with the Katana at 229 and the foot switch at 53 quid. The Fat 2 at 549. That comes in at 831. So I've gone 31 quid over.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I think that's all right. But if I play by the rules, you can get the G29 Fat, the original one, the G290 Fat, sorry. You can get that now for 499. So that is what I've gone for.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
so
that's
just
brilliant.
Get the original Fat. Just get the original fat version. Okay. Yeah, sacrificing the roasted maple neck. But pretty much everything else is the same.
Exactly.
And they do a beautiful translucent blue burst one.
Yeah.
With I think it's a bird's eye maple neck.
It is bird's eye. You're right. It was a bird's eye maple neck. So it's not like you're missing out. You're still getting
you've still got a cool neck on
really cool. I mean, I've loved that guitar for a long time, basically because being a big like Lukather fan, I was kind of like, God, that is like a serious Lukather style, session musician inspired instrument, something high speed, capable, versatile for not a lot of money. And I know that one of the YouTube guys, I don't know if he's Canadian or American, but Darren Braun, do you know Darren? Yeah, he did a review of this and he took it apart and everything, and he said it was an unbelievable guitar for the money as well. And that was the Fat 1, not the Fat 2. He did that a couple of years back. But man, that is such a fantastic choice.
So I've gone for Fat. I've gone for the fat one, a Boss Katana 50, and I've got the foot switch for the Boss Katana, and that's coming in at 780 quid. So then I've got 20 quid to buy some cables to go with it.
Matt, you're gonna get all the gigs, you know.
Well, do you know what I mean? I'd be quite happy with that as a pub, as a simple pub, rig. You know, part of me thinks, you could quite easily do a pub gig with that. No issues. And I think that's quite a good amount of gear that would last the distance. If you wanted to break the budget a bit and go for the roasted maple neck and the translucent black, and you really wanted the fat two, which is awesome, then 830 quid, 30 quid over. Maybe 850 by the time you bought some cables and stuff. Yeah. But I genuinely, I know we do these challenges for fun and, we have a bit of a laugh along the way, but I think that's a really good rig that I'd be very happy to play.
It's killer. Do you know what the other great thing about it is? You can carry it into the pub from the car in one trip. That's the other great thing, right? You get you got your amp in one hand, your guitar in the gig bag, and the pocket in your gig bag can have your pedal and your leads in, your spare set of strings and your strap. And that's all you need. That is,
I think so.
I'm all down for single trip from car guitar rigs, absolutely. Yeah. That is a really, do you know what? That's actually, I've got to say, that's not even a cheap or good value pub rig. That is a fantastic semi-pro rig. You could go out and do, pretty good wedding gigs and stuff with that. That is,
I think so.
Yeah, that is a fantastic rig. You've really, spend the time, got good value out of your cash on this one, mate. I've got to give you credit.
I think so. I genuinely thought, this is how I would spend if it was my own money. This is what I would spend it on, and I'd be quite happy with that. And I think if you spent the time, like you've always said, to get to know your gear and that amp, and spent time to not just use the pre-built-in presets, but spend some time building a really nice clean sound, a really nice crunch sound, and a really good lead sound, and then use the foot switch to be able to manipulate those in a gig setting. I think you'd be absolutely fine. And then if you do want to mess around with modulation and delays and all of those kind of things, then you can do that on the amp panel or on your iPhone or whatever. But I think we'd be all right with that at a gig. Yeah.
Killer.
All right.
Well,
so there we go. We've built two rigs again.
Two rigs again. And do you know what? I know we've got plenty of other things coming up on the podcast, but I know that in a couple of weeks' time, a few weeks' time, we're going to be talking about another rig challenge.
We are.
£5,000 gig rig challenge. I know he's in the schedule. That's going to be fun.
That's where we're going to go completely nuts. Yeah, completely nuts. Do you know what, though? I think in order to do that one justice, right?
Yeah.
I think we are going to have to bite the bullet, mate, and go to a guitar shop to try. Because do you know what's going to kick in now is the complete law of diminishing returns, right? And you can spend up to a price point, and then just beyond that, which fits into this next budget challenge that we're going to do, it literally is going to be, it's worth it, because this guitar is just, when you play it does something to you.
That £5,000 rig might still just end up being a guitar and an amp.
Yeah, couldn't it? Could be. Yeah, absolutely could. So I think we need to go and do some
guitar shopping, and then that needs to inform us. In the next couple of weeks, mate, we've got to do it. The next couple of weeks, we've got to go out.
So we can hand on heart say, do you know what? If you did spend your £5,000 on this, you'd be happy. And we felt and played these things. And they are worth it. They are worth it.
100%. We've got to do it. Maybe we can get a good local retailer involved in that one as well. Get their say. So I think maybe that would be good. Awesome.
That's a good idea. All right, buddy. Nice. That was fun. That was good fun.
Really good fun.
I'm wondering though whether maybe your Fender Champ might have that extra headroom.
No, mate, don't do this to yourself. I'm telling you, you've done the right thing. You've done the right thing.
100 watts just sounds nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, I have a little bit of regret. I think I've chosen a good pub gig rig, but I think what you've done is you've chosen something that goes beyond that and is well worthy of a pub gig rig. And beyond that, like I said, a good semi-pro a wedding band, function band kind of home recording setup, all that stuff. You've gone beyond that. And I think I've chosen a decent pub gig rig as well, but I don't think it goes beyond that.
No.
But I'm pleased with it nonetheless.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It's what you should do. Yeah, definitely. The Fender Champ was an inspired choice. Yeah, nice.
Cool, man.
All right, buddy. Good stuff.
Well,
good stuff.
I hope you have a cracking week. We need to get... I want let's sort out this trip to Guitar Store.
Yeah, I'm going to send you some dates after this
Please
call.
do.
We're going to get it booked.
Let's get it booked in. We're going to do it. I'm desperate to do it.
All right. That's
I've
it.
got a list of guitars I want to
diary.
try out.
Yeah.
But anyway,
me too.
It's always good to see you, buddy. Cracking chat this week.
Yeah, likewise.
Congratulations on your superb rig choice.
And you, mate. And you.
I'll speak to you next week. Have a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, buddy.
All the best, Kiran. See you later, mate.
Bye, mate. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. Come back next time for some more Guitar Smarts conversations. And remember to check out the links in the descriptions to find our social media pages, a merchandise store, buymeacoffee.com page, and some links to where you can leave us a rating or a review. That really helps us to grow the show. Anyway, that's enough from me. We'll see you soon.